The first crash wasn't the one that killed us. That was just the ocean clearing its throat. We were sprawled out, 5 of us, on a rocky outcrop, maybe 50 feet above the waterline. Perfect spot, we thought, for a night under the stars. The air had been thick and humid all day, the kind that promises a storm but never delivers. The sky was clear. We'd set up our little camp, a couple pop-up tents, a fire pit already smoking with damp wood and the smell of instant noodles starting to waft. I was tightening a guy line on my tent when the ground gave a low, sustained groan. Not just a tremor. It was like the earth was sighing. A second later, the ground bucked, not violently, but with a deep, rolling motion that knocked us off balance. We looked at each other, wide-eyed. Liam, always the first to crack a joke, even when he shouldn't, mumbled something about a big rig on the highway. We were miles from any highway. Then the ocean started to pull back. Not a little, not like a tide, but a greedy, sucking retreat that exposed rocks I'd never seen, even at the lowest tide. The air went still, too still. A heavy, unnatural silence that made my skin crawl. That's when Mark, the most experienced hiker among us, swore under his breath. "Tsunami," he choked out. His voice, tight with a fear I had never heard from him before. We barely had time to register it. The ocean, which had just been a vast, flat mirror, began to rise. Not a wave, not something beautiful. It humped up, a dark, bruised wall swelling on the horizon. It wasn't clean, it wasn't graceful. It was something ancient, malevolent, a moving mountain of water. Liam screamed, a thin, broken sound, and we scrambled, clawing at the rock, desperate for any extra inch of height. But there was nowhere to go. Inland was a sheer cliff face, downward, straight into the sea. Then came the sound. Not a roar, but a monstrous rip, like the world itself was being torn apart. It hit the coast with unimaginable force. A frothing, churning monster of white and gray and fury. We were high enough to avoid the direct impact, but the spray was thick, gritty. It lashed us like glass, stinging our faces, burning our eyes. The air filled with the groan of splintering trees, the crash of rocks, and the sickening thud of debris slamming into whatever stood in its path. My ears popped from the pressure.
And when the first wave receded, leaving behind a foamy, angry mess, we were still there, drenched, shaking, but alive. That's when the real nightmare began.
The initial relief was short-lived, a flickering candle in a hurricane. We scanned the coastline, desperate for any sign of life, a boat, a light, anything. But there was nothing, just a raw, unmade world. The beach we'd camped on, gone, swallowed whole by the sea. Where there had been soft sand at a gentle slope, now jagged rocks jutted out like broken teeth, polished smooth by the ocean's violence. Our tents, our gear, our food, all of it just gone, swept away like it had never existed. Anyone hurt? Mark's voice cracked, hoarse from salt and fear. We checked each other. Sam had a nasty gash on his forehead, blood dripping freely down his cheek. My ankle throbbed, a dull, pulsing ache that promised something worse. Liam was pale, shaking, but no visible injuries. David? He didn't answer. He just stood there, staring out at the wreckage, his face hollow, like something had left him. Roads are gone, David finally said, his voice flat, lifeless. He pointed inland. The little winding road we'd taken to get here, the one that hugged the cliff face, was obliterated. Landslides had swallowed whole sections. Where there had been a path, there was now bare, exposed rock, slick with seawater. Further in, the plains we'd driven through were now a vast, murky lake. Trees stood there, not rooted, but drowned, their branches reaching out, like hands that never made it to safety. A way out, Liam whispered, his voice catching, cracking. Mark, trying to stay calm, tried to rally us. Okay, deep breaths. We're alive. That's the main thing. We need to find water, fresh water, and figure out what we've got. What we had was nothing. No food, no clean water, just the soaked clothes on our backs, and the rising dread clawing its way into our stomachs. The sun, finally pushing through the mist, started to climb. The air turned heavy, pressing down on us like a wet blanket. Thirst, already a nagging discomfort, started to tighten its grip. Hot, dry, unrelenting. We spent the rest of that day trying to move inland, following the cliff face, searching for anything, a spring, a runoff, a miracle. But the ground fought us. It was a mess of slippery mud, shattered rock, and tangled, waterlogged debris. Every step was a battle. My ankle screamed with each movement, a fire in my bones. Sam's head kept bleeding. He looked paler by the hour. Too pale. By evening, we were broken, exhausted. The salt had worked its way into everything. Our clothes were stiff, our skin raw and chafed. The air smelled like a rotting aquarium, a heavy metallic tang that clung to the back of our throats. We huddled together on a slightly higher ledge. The flooded world stretched out below us like a shattered mirror reflecting a dying sky. And always, the water. Lapping, gnawing, mocking. A constant reminder that we didn't belong here. That nature had claimed this place back, and it wasn't finished with us yet.
The second day was worse, much worse. The sun beat down, relentless, unforgiving. The air was thick and still, like we were breathing soup. Thirst became a living thing, a constant burning ache in our throats, in our stomachs, in the hollow space where hope used to live. We tried to ration what little rainwater we'd caught in some cupped leaves, but it wasn't enough. A sip, maybe less. Gone in seconds. Sam's gash was getting worse. The skin around it was red, angry. A dark line of infection was creeping up his forehead. Then he started shivering in the heat. Mark tried to downplay it, tried to hold it together. Just a little fever, Sam. You'll shake it off. But we all knew. We didn't say it out loud, but we knew. Infection. My ankle had swollen to nearly twice its size. The bruising had spread, purple-black, ugly and alive. Every step was white-hot agony. I tried to hobble, to keep pace, but I was slowing the group down. I could feel it. Their quiet concern, their unspoken thoughts. Liam, normally so full of energy, barely spoke. His eyes flicked constantly, nervous, paranoid, like he was waiting for something to go wrong. Again. David, somehow, still looked steady, still scanning the horizon, still moving with purpose. But even he looked tired. We found a bit of shelter,
a shallow overhang jutting out from the rock. It barely shielded us from the sun. The ground beneath it was slick with mud, and the air was rancid, a foul, rotting odor that clung to our skin. Decay. Something nearby was dying, or already dead. We didn't look for it, didn't want to look. We just huddled in that stink, pretending not to smell it, pretending we weren't breaking down from the inside out. Water became everything, the only thing. We dug shallow pits in the mud, hoping, praying for a spring, something clean. But all we found was brackish filth, muddy water that tasted like salt and rot. We chewed on leaves, anything green, anything moist. It didn't help. The thirst just got worse, more cruel. The world around us, it wasn't just indifferent. It was hostile. The cliffs above groaned, unstable, like they could collapse at any moment. Below, a graveyard, flooded ruins of what had once been lives. Twisted metal, splintered planks, dead furniture, shattered windows still holding raindrops like tears. Every step forward was a gamble. Liam gasped suddenly. We turned. His hand was bleeding. A deep cut across the palm, sliced open by a jagged piece of buried metal. Another wound, another risk, another weakness added to the pile. And still, no clean water, no food, no path out. Just a sun that wouldn't stop burning, and a sky that refused to rain.
Before we dive back in, let me know where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. If the tension's got you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button. Subscribe for more deep dive survival horror tales, and don't miss a single heart-pounding moment. On the third day, the wildlife started to appear, but not the kind you'd want. Not birdsong and deer tracks and curious raccoons. This was the deep-sea kind. We saw them first in the flooded water, slithering shapes, moving under the surface. At first it was just strange, fish swimming where there should have been trees. Then it got worse. It got weird. We were resting near a stagnant inlet, the water warm, foul-smelling, when something slid onto the bank. Long, dark, thick, like a moray eel, but bigger, thicker. Its skin was leathery. Its eyes were small, black, and watching. It writhed there, its jaw slowly working open and shut, revealing row after row of needle-sharp teeth. It didn't attack, didn't chase us, but it didn't need to. Just being there, it was enough to make our skin crawl. A message. The rules had changed. The world we knew was gone. "What the hell is that?" Liam whispered. His voice barely carried, thin, afraid. Mark, always trying to stay composed, said, "Just a fish, probably washed in. Leave it alone." But it wasn't just fish. We started seeing birds, not the usual ones. These were dark, unfamiliar seabirds, wings too wide, eyes too round. Their calls weren't natural. They grated, scraped at your nerves like claws on a chalkboard. And then there were the things we couldn't see, rustling in the drowned bushes, low splashes in deep water, too large to be fish. We didn't talk about them, didn't dare. The air was changing too, heavier, sweeter. Then came the insects, mosquitoes, clouds of them, drawn to our sweat, to our wounds, to the rot in the air. They bit and bit, relentless, carrying whatever filth the water had spawned, Sam was slipping fast. His fever had spiked. His skin was burning. He was talking nonsense, mumbling, gritting his teeth, twitching. We tried to help. Wet rags, shade, whispers. But there was no clean water, no medicine, no relief. His wound was festering. Yellow-green pus, the edges swollen and cracked. It smelled wrong, like death. My ankle wasn't doing any better. It had gone from pain to pure radiating fire. The skin was breaking down, raw, oozing, turning dark at the edges. Every step was its own hell. I could barely move, could barely think past the pain, but I had to. So I dragged myself forward, jaw clenched, vision swimming. And David stayed with me. Never said much, just quietly fell back to offer his shoulder, his arm, his presence. It kept me going. I think it saved me. But the hunger, that never left. It gnawed at us constantly, a low, hollow ache deep in the gut. And the thirst was something else entirely. It was sharp, insistent, blinding. My mouth was like sandpaper, my tongue swollen, heavy, dry. We tried everything, sucking on pebbles, chewing leaves. It didn't help. We were slipping, fraying at the edges. We started seeing things, water where there was none, shimmering pools in the distance, mirages, cruel tricks of the sun and salt and desperation. We'd stumble toward them, only to find dry rock, mud, nothing. We were unraveling, one slow, impossible step at a time. Days blurred together into an agonizing cycle of walking, searching, breaking. The sun, the salt, the gnawing hunger, the relentless thirst, they were stripping us bare, piece by piece. Mark, once a rock, was starting to crack. His voice, once steady, grew sharp, erratic. He insisted we keep moving, even when our bodies screamed to stop. He was convinced rescue was just over the next ridge. But there was no ridge. Just more flooded land, more rot, more nothing. Liam started pushing back. Desperate, fraying, angry. What's the point, Mark? We're gonna die out here. His voice cracked, full of rage and something else. Panic. Then came the moral fractures. We found a shed, half underwater. Inside, a miracle. Canned food, rotting vegetables, but food. Enough for maybe one decent meal, split between 5. It was barely a taste. Mark, in a moment of selfishness, tried to hide some. Said he needed it. I have to lead, he claimed. I need the strength. Liam caught him. And the argument that followed, it wasn't just a fight. It was raw, primal, ugly. They screamed, pushed. It almost turned violent, until David. Quiet, steady David. He stepped between them. No yelling, no threats, just calm, firm authority. He divided the food equally, and no one dared argue. Sam was leaving us. His breaths came shallow, his eyes cloudy, far away. The infection had spread. His wound reeked sickly sweet. That smell stays with me. It was the scent of a body starting to give up, to rot. We tried to talk to him, but he was already somewhere else, floating in a fever dream we couldn't reach. And we had nothing to help him. No water, no medicine, no prayers, just helpless hands and shattered hearts. And then Liam broke. The thirst shattered something in him. On the 5th day, he just stopped walking, sat in the mud, tears streaming, eyes blank. Then he laughed, a high, hysterical cackle that made my blood run cold. Water! Look, so much water! He shrieked, pointing at the flooded land around us. Sweet, sweet water! He dropped to his knees, shoved his face into a puddle, started drinking, choking, gagging, then drinking again. Convinced it was clean, safe. We tried to stop him, pulled him back, held his arms. He fought us, screaming, scratching, wild-eyed. He was gone, not dead, not yet, but mentally he had slipped away. My own body wasn't far behind. My ankle felt like it had torn open, ligaments shredded. Each step was like walking on broken glass. Worse, my soles were raw, skin peeling, blistered, bleeding. Blood soaked my socks, turned the mud beneath me red. Sand and grit forced their way into every open wound. The pain was constant, gnawing, blinding. But I kept moving, because stopping meant becoming another body the land could swallow. But it wasn't just the pain. It was the silence, the emptiness, the growing weight of knowing no one was coming, that we were alone, completely, irrevocably alone. We started speaking less, not out of choice, but because there was nothing left to say. Each of us retreated inward, into our own private hells. Hope was a fragile thing, and out here, it broke easily. We stumbled on, a ragged, desperate procession. Mark still tried to lead, but he was crumbling. He muttered to himself, eyes distant, vacant for long stretches, like part of him had wandered off and forgotten to come back. Liam was gone. Lost in his thirst-crazed madness. He needed constant watching, a child trapped in a man's body, chasing invisible lakes and whispering to shadows. David, though. David was the anchor, the last bit of stability we had. Quiet, steady, relentlessly practical. He never panicked, never hesitated, just kept pushing forward, one brutal step at a time. And me? Every step was a new kind of pain. Every breath scraped my lungs. But I focused on one thing. One foot, then the other. One foot, then the other. It was the only rhythm I had left. The landscape kept shifting, kept turning against us. Some floodwaters had receded, but they left behind something worse. Mud. Thick, clinging, soupy mud that sucked at our feet and threatened to pull our shoes off with every single step. Elsewhere, new currents had carved themselves into the earth. Swift, unpredictable, dangerous. We had to cross them, gripping branches, half-submerged beams, whatever we could find. The water was cold and fast, always threatening to take one of us. Above us, the cliffs were giving way. Chunks of rock thundered down without warning. The trails we once trusted crumbled into sheer, lethal drops. The earth itself seemed tired of holding on. And then the wildlife got braver. More of those deep-sea creatures. Some dead, bloated on the receding flats, their bodies twisted, unnatural. Some still alive, still moving, still watching. One evening, sheltered beneath a shattered outcrop, we heard something cry out. Not an animal, not a bird, not anything I could name. It came from the flooded trees, low, throaty, almost human. Something ancient, hungry. We didn't sleep that night. We just sat there, back to back, listening to the movement, to the sounds of something massive and unseen. Our bodies were breaking. Skin burned and crusted with salt, lips split open, bleeding when we spoke, when we breathed. Our ribs showed, sharp beneath skin like cracked branches. The infections were everywhere. Sam was barely alive. His chest rose so faintly we had to check again and again if he was still with us. But what kind of with us was that? Liam babbled constantly now, about drinking the ocean dry, about lakes made of glass just over the next rise. He pointed the air, laughing. Gone. His body was still here, but Liam wasn't. And me? I stopped looking at my feet, because I knew what I'd see. The rot had taken hold. The skin was mushy, discolored. I could feel it, moving, not just pain anymore, but something inside the pain. Maggots. Tiny lives thriving where mine was ending. The smell followed me. I reeked of death. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. The pain wasn't sharp anymore. It was just there, a constant roar, a background noise I'd learned to live with, or die with. We didn't know where we were going anymore. We just knew we couldn't stay still, because staying still meant waiting to die. And still, somehow, we walked. It was David who saw it, a faint shimmer on the distant horizon, barely visible against the hazy sky. Smoke, he rasped. His voice was raw, rough from days of silence. Smoke signal. And just like that, hope returned. Dangerous, fragile, but alive. A tiny spark, enough to lift our heads, to straighten our spines, to move. We pushed on. Every step, agony. Every breath, a battle. But we moved. For the first time in days, we moved toward something. We carried Sam, his weight like stone. We guided Liam, who flickered between brief sanity and babbling hallucinations, and Mark. When he saw the smoke, something came back, a flicker of the man he used to be, a leader with purpose. We followed the smoke, a thin, wavering line in the sky, a beacon in the dead world. It led us up, to higher ground. The way was still hard, still cruel, but the earth was drier, the footing steadier. And then, water, a small, muddy stream, barely a trickle, but it was fresh. We stared at it, unsure it was real. Then we knelt, cupped our hands, and drank. Slowly, carefully. Too fast, and our bodies rejected it. But we learned. Sip, wait, breathe, sip again. And just like that, a fog lifted. Liam blinked, spoke a full sentence, recognized our names. Sanity. Just a sliver, but enough. It took another day, a crawl, a desperate, dragging crawl across the wreckage of the world. But then, signs. A helicopter, far off, just a speck at first. Then, sound. Rotors, voices, people. Rescue was close. When they found us, we were ghosts. Filthy, broken, unrecognizable. Our skin peeled, burned, crusted. Our bodies starved. Our eyes haunted. Sam was unconscious, clinging to the edge. Liam still mumbled, but his screams had stopped. My feet, black, swollen, weeping infection. And Mark, just a shell. His voice was gone, his hands shook, but he stood. And David, still standing, still steady, still holding us together. The rescuers didn't flinch. They didn't ask questions. They gave us water. Small sips, then more. Blankets, bandages, soft words spoken like anchors. We were lifted, stretcher by stretcher, into the chopper. As the rotors spun up, I turned my head, looked down at the land that had tried to break us, at the vast, muddy wasteland where trees drowned and the sky never forgave, at what used to be a coastline. The tsunami didn't kill us, not directly, but it brought us to the edge. It stripped away every layer of comfort, of safety, of civilization, left us raw, desperate, animal. We survived, but we were not the same. Not anymore. The scars on our skin and deep inside us would never fully fade. We were alive, yes, but survival always has a cost. That was the story. If you made it this far, thank you. Truly, your time, your attention, your support, it means everything. If you felt something while listening, tension, fear, hope, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want more immersive survival horror stories like this one, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Until then, stay safe out there.